Hey guys, I'm back, and what a week. This is interesting. I never knew that this was going to be this interesting. It's quite interesting, it's quite refreshing. I'm quite I'm quite happy with the feedback that I'm getting. So this week we are continuing the discussion that we started last week. I have to say I'm loving the debate. I never knew that you guys could be this engaging, and I love the engagement. Let's continue the engagement. So continuing on savings, I had an interesting viewpoint. Someone said to me, you raise good points, but you completely ignore the fundamentals. They went on to say people are saving, but they're not saving in the local currency. They're saving in hard currency, in rands, in USD. I do agree to a certain extent. And I have to put a disclaimer whilst we start. I'm not advocating for saving in a certain currency here. My point of view is simply that for an economy to function, it starts with savings. To fund infrastructure development in an economy, the first thing that has to be there is saving. That's why I was talking about the banks, the equity, and all that. That's the point that I'm trying to drive home, to encourage the culture of saving. So today, I'm going to bring to the fore, I'm going to bring something that I think we can do, all of us, to save. Some of us, in the feedback that I got, some were saying, you can't save in an economy like Zimbabwe. Some brought out the issues to do with confidence in the banking sector, confidence with the monetary policies, confidence with the monetary authorities. I do agree with most of you. And I have to say that I'll grant you those arguments. But at the same time, isn't there something that you and I can do whilst we leave the authorities to work on what they have to work on? Isn't there something that we can do? On 22 February 2019, the government officially reintroduced the Zim dollar. The journey has been turbulent from there on. The Zim dollar has fell 12,000% on the black market from that day. 9,000% on the official rate. You remember that the day that it was 1:1, then the government says it's now 2.5 to 1 US dollar. And then from the 2.5 that day to today's rate, 290, 300, that's more than 12,000, that's more than 10,000%. At the same time, when the government reintroduced the Zim dollar in 2019, the black market rate was 3.5. Today we're talking about 420, 450, thereabout. But what is interesting is, if someone had kept their $100 in their pillow or under their bed, today they'll still have $100. So the question is that saving? Have you done anything if your money is not gaining anything? What we all have to start to know is, even the US dollar itself is also depreciating in value. It's also being affected by inflation. And this inflation in US dollar terms is not local inflation. Yes, there's local inflation in US dollar terms, but there's also global inflation that affects the US dollar terms. And mainly it's driven by global market issues and the war in Ukraine and all that. They do affect the US dollar in terms of its value. Locally, we have seen that prices also go up in US dollar terms. So if you had kept your $100 note in your pillow or under your bed in 2019, how much would your money be able to buy today? The question is, have you saved? The problem that we have currently is we are keeping money for transactional purposes. If I earn today in Zim dollar, I go to the market, I was in the streets yesterday and I found out that to buy a $100 note or whatever, the rate that these guys are charging in the black market is 480 if you want to buy Forex on the streets. Yet when you are selling your $100 or $1, whatever, they are paying you something way less, 400, 380. That's what they are doing. So how is that affecting us? Today you buy your foreign currency at a high rate. When you sell it at a lower rate. In real terms, how much have you lost? But that's not my point. That's a point for another day. Today my point is on ways to save. And today I'm going to share on simply just one way. The stock market. So let me give an example of an investment on the stock market. If you had 1,000 Zim dollar in 2019 and you had invested your 1,000 in the stock market, today you would be having 141,000. 1,000 Zim dollar in 2019 was equivalent to 285 US dollars using the black market or the pearl market rate. So what we are simply trying to do is we are simply trying to see if there is growth in real money terms. And the 141,000 today using the pearl market rate is equivalent to plus or minus 335, depending with what rate you are using. So I was just doing a quick calculation, and I would see that your money in real terms since 2019 to today would have grown by over 17%. So now that is what we call saving. Your money has not just increased. You have not just kept your money. Like I was saying, if you had kept your money in your pillow, you will still suffer inflation. Not the local inflation, the 600%, 50%, whatever. But you would be suffering from global inflation because Zimbabwe cannot defend against the Zim dollar. I mean against the US dollar. Zimbabwe can only import inflation on the US dollar. Like if you look at what is happening now, your 100 US, can it still buy the same number of liters in terms of fuel that it bought in 2019? The answer is no, because fuel has gone up in US dollar terms. Can it still buy the same number of if you were buying cooking oil? It has gone up. So you see that prices in US dollar are also going up. So if you had kept your $100 in your pillow, you will still be suffering from inflation, which is the same issue that we are talking about now. So I'm saying you take your money in the currency that you have earned it. Let's say you've earned your money in Zim dollar. You want to keep it. Instead of taking your money to your pillow, or instead of taking your money to the black market and buying forex, why can't you take the same amount of money and buy shares on the stock exchange? Because we are trying to save. If you had done that, your money would have grown by 17% today. I just did a quick research and I noticed that the S&P 500, which is the American stock exchange, it averages 10% growth per annum. The South African JSE, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, about 8.5 to 9%. In general, they say the stock exchange averages between 8 to 12%. And clearly the Zimbabwean stock exchange is outstripping all the other stock exchanges in real terms. But this can only work, this only happens in economies that are not working like the Zimbabwean economy. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying your stock exchange will keep value for you. At the same time, it will grow your money. What we need, what we want is money growth. The same thing happens, the same argument even goes for our friends in the diaspora. So let's say you're in UK. The UK stock exchange is not performing like the Zimbabwe dollar stock exchange. And one thing that I can assure you about a stock exchange, even if there's a change in policy, the number of shares that you have bought in a certain company will not change. There is no policy that will say XYZ Muzariri, you bought your shares in Old Muchko, for example, today, and tomorrow they'll say your shares are no longer 50, they are now 25. So the stock exchange, it won't be affected. The number of shares that you have won't be affected by any policies. They can change anything but the number of shares that you have. And you see that the stock exchange over time, yes, there are those cyclical ups, downs, but over time, the stock exchange is always growing. It's always growing. So I submit to you that to grow, to save your money, put your money aside. The stock exchange is one good example where your money would grow. That's my take for today. Thank you.